Once upon a time, there was a judge named Captain James who was also the captain of a ship. One day, while he was at sea, a terrible storm hit and the ship capsized. Captain James was thrown into the water and struggled to stay afloat as his crew members scrambled to save themselves. Despite his cries for help, none of them tried to rescue him, and he was eventually rescued by a passing boat. After this traumatic experience, Captain James became convinced that his crew members had deliberately abandoned him to die. He returned to his job as a judge with a newfound belief that all defendants were guilty, regardless of the evidence presented in court. He became known as a harsh and uncompromising judge, handing down guilty verdicts in every case that came before him. His crew members, meanwhile, were racked with guilt over their failure to save him. They tried to explain that the storm had been so severe that they had been unable to reach him, but Captain James refused to listen. Years went by and Captain James' reputation as a ruthless judge spread far and wide. But eventually, he began to realize that his belief in the guilt of all defendants was unjust and that he needed to change his ways. He retired from the bench and spent the rest of his days reflecting on the lessons he had learned and working to make amends for the mistakes of his past. Just when it seemed like Captain James had found some measure of peace, fate dealt him a cruel blow. His own son was accused of a crime and brought before him in court. Despite knowing that his son was innocent, Captain James's past experience and his belief in the guilt of all defendants led him to sentence his own son to a harsh punishment. It was only then that Captain James truly understood the full extent of the damage that his past had caused and the weight of his own guilt. He spent the rest of his days trying to make amends for his mistake and seeking forgiveness from his son and others who had been affected by his actions. The moral of the story is that our past experiences can shape our beliefs and actions, but it's important to be aware of the potential consequences and try to be fair and just. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking the video and subscribe to be notified of freshly baked, frightfully generic stories.